Meeple peoples. I'm Mark from the Meeple Society, and along with Jessica, Katie, and Greg, we want to thank you for stopping into that abandoned shed along the rough of the 16th fairway, the one that is clearly marked as 5 things. So today on 5 things, I want to talk about time. Time is a precious resource that none of us ever have enough of. There's so much to do in any given day and never enough hours to get it all done. If there were 48 hours in a day, I would almost assuredly gripe that there is not 50. Like those 2 hours would make that big of a difference. Here's a sample of what my day looks like working a third shift job. Wake up about 2 in the afternoon, shower, make dinner, spend a little time with my wife and child, write for an hour if I'm really lucky, go to work for 10 plus hours, return home about 7 in the morning, spend a little time with my wife and child before they go off to work and school respectively, go to bed, rinse, repeat ad nauseum, at least 5, usually 6 days a week. It almost feels funny when the idea gets thrown out to somehow manage to shoehorn a full board game into that schedule. Look, I am stupidly excited about Madara, and I'm even punching out the tokens until I take vacation days. And even then, at some point, me and Jesse actually have to sleep. I absolutely can't fathom how some people I watch post about how they're able to fit 300 to 400 board games in a year around jobs and kids and trips and housekeeping and at least pretending to be social. I mean, are they all retired? Do they sleep?
Have kids.
We just don't have children.
Are they hooked up to like a food IV? Can I get hooked up to a food IV? Trust me, I realize how precious free time is. Fortunately, some board game designers have got us covered. Now, if you heard us on the podcast, you heard us going on about 5 Minute Marvel, an absolutely fun game with a lot of tension and a lot of think quick, act fast action that takes less than 20 minutes from pulling it out of the box to putting it away. And that got me thinking about others we like. So this time around, I'm giving you 5 great games that can be played in less than an hour. Now, be warned, your mileage may vary with some of these, and some of these might trickle over an hour, especially if you throw multiple players at them. Also, let me tell you, this is not meant to be a comprehensive list. There are games that didn't make the list from our own library. Nova Luna, which we discussed today, Paperback, Sagrada, Patchwork, Hexplora if you roll really bad on your first turn.
Yes.
Point is, not every game could make a list of 5. So I have some favorites I didn't cover, or if you have some as well, feel free to drop them in the comments box. Number 1, Canvas. So it's early evening and you're stressed and you need a little break, and maybe you even have some non-board game players over and you're being forced to do that social thing, which, trust me, I know can be extremely stressing. So why not pull out a game that is pretty and calming and as straightforward as it can possibly be for even inexperienced players? Canvas is a wonderful little light card drafting game where you are an artist looking to place as best in show by creating 3 works of art. You do this by selecting a transparent card from a line on the table. The first one at the far left is always free, but for each one to the right of that, you have to pay an inspiration token, which will make the cards you passed over more valuable to others. Once you have 3 cards, you can choose to either draft a card, up to 5 total, or display a painting by overlapping the cards in a sleeve with a background and using the icons that display on the bottom to score them against all the public goals you have that are chosen randomly at the start of the game. On top of that, the art on the transparent cards all shows through, so you're actually making a cool little piece of modern art with a title and everything. At the end, the player with the most points for attaining the most goals with their paintings is the winner. This game is like ridiculously easy to learn and welcoming to new players with its theme and its simplicity. The mechanics are really easy to grasp. It does offer you enough strategy to keep you engaged, but it's not so thinky that it burns your brain and turns off first timers. We played it with our 8-year-old, and I would hazard it's actually more simple to learn than most mainstream games. It encourages a lot of laughter and conversation as the game is going, and it goes from box to table in about a half hour tops. It's a light diversion most people will enjoy, and I highly recommend it. So that's number 1, Canvas.
Yep. I think this is on our list to play.
Might
when we
possibly
get together for a game night at your house.
Someday.
It
It's a
keeps
very
growing.
visual game. It's really nice.
Yes, definitely.
I've heard really good things about it. We've just never had a chance to play it.
Nope.
All righty. Number 2, Kanagawa. So let's find our zen here, because this is another game that brings you to the calm of a picturesque day instead of finding the everyday stress of dealing with people at work with listening deficiencies, or finding out that your 8-year-old's entire life is crashing down around her head because something happened in a video game. Sit back, take several deep breaths, find your zen, open Kanagawa. Sticking with the painting genre, Kanagawa is another game in which you're an aspiring artist attending school in Japan to learn from the masters. Now, where Canvas is a game that is very welcoming to newcomers, I feel like Kanagawa has a little bit more going on, although there are similarities in tone and theme. Again, you'll be drafting cards to paint, although in Kanagawa, it's more of a muralesque painting. You have two-sided cards that are added, some face up, some face down, on the bamboo mat to select from, and the cards are placed in rows based on the number of players. During the up to 3 phases of the draft, you decide whether you're going to draft all the cards in a column. If you don't, a new row will be placed, and again, you will have to choose to draft the entire column or not. You then tuck your drafted cards into one of 2 rows based on whether you will use the painting side of the card to expand your painting, utilizing some of your already learned techniques, or the opposite side to increase the learning and your use of colors. Throughout the game, as you reach certain goals in your various themes, you can gain diplomas or choose to bypass them to try for more difficult diplomas in the same game for more victory points. Now, overall, Kanagawa is definitely a lot more thinky and arguably more strategic than Canvas. The cards have a lot on them to keep tabs on: the theme, the season, the required paints and techniques. In order to paint a card, for instance, you actually have to have the proper techniques mastered on your learning line and have enough paintbrushes available to use those. And there are bonuses that are based on having so many of the same seasons in a row. So drafting may adjust your strategy a little bit, but it's still not a difficult game to grasp, and it's really tranquil to enjoy. Just the sort of thing that kind of gets you through all the interpersonal emergencies of the day, generally in less than an hour.
Nice. This game looks like it has the same calming effect as, what is it, Tokaido?
Yes.
Just looking at it, it just kind of calms you.
Yeah, I like it's very, Canvas is a really good game, and I really like Canvas. Kanagawa has a different sort of feel. It's very, very tranquil. It's, got that nice, it's almost like you would have different sorts of music playing in the background if you were playing these games.
Nice. I'll have to put this on the list.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a very nice game. All right. Number 3, Codenames Duet. So how well do you know your spouse or gaming partner? You see this sort of criteria in all manner of hyped up party games, usually the ones that skew adult and centered around something like, would you sleep with celebrity X if you couldn't get caught? Or what's the most hideous lie you've ever told your significant other? Or you remember that one time you were so drunk that you ended up running across the street, ranting about the pitfalls of player agency, and then dropping trow in the public park and scaring that nervous older couple into calling the cops on you? Yeah, those all suck.
You're supposed to keep that a secret.
Codenames Duet doesn't. And by the way, I was ranting about how players nowadays have gotten too entitled. Thank you very much. So we've talked a little bit about Codenames before. It's a wonderful series of games that can usually be completed inside of 15 to 30 minutes tops, where the basic idea is that you're trying to find which agents in the field are yours by giving your partner or team one-word clues and numbers to distinguish which words on the board corresponds to the locations of your agents. But you have a limited number of clues to give, so you want to be able to cover multiple tiles if you possibly can. And this is where knowing your partner is actually important. Say you're about to give the clue brick, thinking that the safe words out there are red, stone, and building. But one of the bad words is oven. Does your partner enjoy cooking enough that they might lean that direction instead? What if one of the bad words is window and your partner has a history of vandalism? It can happen. These are things you actually have to think through. Add to it that the codename line comes in all shapes and flavors now.
Yeah.
Do you not like anything but IPs? I'm sure there's a Codenames with everything from Disney to Simpsons to Harry Potter already. You think it's too kid friendly? There's Codenames Deep Undercover. Do you think it requires too much reading and besides words are stupid and evil? Then try Codenames Pictures. And most of these can be mixed and matched with the base set, whether you play with two or with a full group. So we very seldom play this game just once. Usually playing it once leads to several games in a row, and we still barely squeak past the hour mark when we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you played the map yet?
No, we have not played the map. That's probably soon on our list.
Yeah. Well, on the Duet one, they have basically it makes it a campaign.
Right. Well, that's what I meant by the map.
Yeah. And you have to we haven't played it in a while. But like in Prague, you have to get so many matches without having more than so many misses.
Right.
And if you can manage that, then you get to mark off Prague and move to a adjoining city where there's different requirements. So we've played that one a few times. I think we've managed to mark off 3 or 4 cities because inevitably the first game we lose because we haven't synced up yet. So it takes us 2 or 3 games to sync up and actually win one in the right amount of, without going over the amount of misses we're allowed in order to win that city.
Right.
But no, we enjoy this one. We need to get it back out again. We haven't played it in a while.
Okay. Number 4, Draftosaurus.
Yay.
I was waiting for that.
Dinosaur Meeples! Ah! Okay.
Wow.
Yes.
He warned us.
He did warn us.
Dinosaur Island has them too. And so does Tiny Epic Dinosaurs and probably a host of others. And that's totally a fair assessment because I get excited about those too. But still, and here's the thing, Draftosaurus is more than just the sum total of a whole bunch of dinosaur meeples. The idea is that you're opening a dinosaur park or a dinosaur zoo or a dinosaur cultural heritage museum, and you're placing dinosaurs into pens there. But you have to follow particular rules as you go that make this game feel almost like the hybrid of a drafting placement and a roll and write. The game only runs 2 rounds with a total of 12 turns. Each round, everyone pulls 6 dinosaurs from the blind draw bag and keeps them hidden until they draft 1 and pass the remainders to the player on their left. There's a die that dictates rules for placement on a turn. So, and where you place them matters for in-game scoring too. Certain pins only score pairs or score pairs of the same types. Certain types require particular varieties. Certain types may require particular sameness. You'll get more points for placing a certain dinosaur if it's the only one you have, or if you place a dinosaur and you have the most of that particular type of dinosaur when everything's said and done. And if you can't follow placement rules, you can always put the dinosaur in the river. So there's a lot of deceptively deep choices going on in this game, which is really light enough that even most non-gamers could pick it up and enjoy it for what it is. We played it with our 8-year-old again, and she wasn't overwhelmed. There may be a smidge of AP from time to time as you try to figure out what the best placement is, but nowhere near what you run into in heavier games. I mean, seriously, when you can honestly look at a game and say the only bad side is there is no rules for customers being eaten, then you have a winner. And Draftosaurus is an absolute winner. And even with AP, you're looking at barely more than half an hour from setup to tear down. And besides that, dinosaur meeples!
They are really cute.
They are. They're stupidly cute.
He is so easily excitable.
Yes.
Yep. All righty. And finally, number 5, Cartographers, a role player tale. Roll and write games and their kissing cousins, flip and write games, have been notoriously hit and miss with me. I've played ones that I've absolutely loved. I've played ones that I'm kind of ambivalent about, and I've played ones that I will be charitable and not discuss here because this is supposed to be happy Markland, not invective spouting Markland. In fact,
so is that
more,
next week's?
That's going to be next week.
Next
so I figure
week's?
I've got
Okay.
to offset here and there.
Can we get a T-shirt that says that?
In fact, maybe more than any mechanic in the board game continuum, roll and write games have the biggest opportunity to sound great on paper and then fall flat. Also on paper, I guess. But that is definitely not the case with Cartographers, which falls into the role player universe. In Cartographers, you are, well, Cartographers, which, by the way, means that this game also falls by default into the 5 most aptly named games list. You've been tasked with the Queen to find and map the northern lands, and she has given you edicts to try to find particular land types she has interest in. The gameplay is generally simple. Each round, you'll flip explorer cards to reveal selections of shapes and terrain types, and select and fill these shapes somewhere on your map, continuing until you've passed the seasonal threshold and score before beginning the next season. You can rake in gold on some cards for using a smaller shape, or by filling in all the available areas around a mountain. But what I would argue is the most interesting aspect of the game is there are ambush cards that get hidden in amongst the rest of the Explorer deck each season. As you turn over one of these cards, you switch maps with your opponents, and they get to draw the shape on your map wherever they please while you draw on someone else's. At the end of the game, blank spaces around monster icon makes you lose map points, or makes you lose points, so you can really hose your opponent. Now, usually, I'm not a huge fan of take that mechanisms, but in Cartographers, this just works.
Mhm.
Part of it is that unless you're like way into late in the game, there are usually ways around the ambush terrains later in the game. And part of it is just the sheer fun of watching the other player, watching what they draw on your sheet. Like,
Mhm.
I admit a lot of times I caption the little monster icons that I put on Jess's sheet when we play 2-player. Sometimes I even name them. So
I have to try that.
everything about Cartographers just plays really smoothly. It drips with the role player theme, which, as you know, we're big fans of, and it all works together very well. True, you can probably stretch out the game a little if you want to do absolute works of art when you're creating it. But even if you don't, you're looking at a game that generally doesn't take any longer than 45 minutes, regardless of the player count. So it's a great game. It's a great theme, and it's always a fun time.
Yes.
Okay,
We
so I
loved
know
it.
what your Christmas present is now this year, because on Etsy, I found little stamps of all of the different terrain types specifically for this game.
Oh,
Oh wow.
that'd be
Right?
nice.
Oh, I've almost ordered them for myself. So I think I may have to order a couple sets. So guess what you might be getting for Christmas?
Woo!
Now, when you guys play this, do you guys use colored pencils?
No.
Generally not,
Wow.
but
we
we
dug
could.
out the colored pencils. We had
Yep.
to. I mean,
No, I definitely understand the reasoning behind it.
yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
But
Makes
the
it easier to
stamps
know
will
what
be
you have.
better. Just saying.
They're more expensive
Well, yes, but it's a one-time cost.
Yeah, true
That's
that.
true.
And of course, you got
until
the
you have to
ink.
buy more ink.
Well, that's true. Ink pads are cheap.
There's always a downside.
You get ink
Alrighty.
pads at the Dollar Tree. I mean,
Oh, well,
Right.
that's true.
Right.
Okay. Better the right color.
And that's Mark's 5 things for this episode. Number 5, Cartographers, a roll and write tale. I'm sorry, a role player tale. Let's try that whole one again. Can we edit this? Can we?
Yes.
Can we? Okay, good.
Maybe. Depends on the mood I'm in.